And it's always so nice to connect with you, and you're doing a show that's going to be happening this coming Saturday at Pro Arts. Pro Arts Maui is a lovely place to enjoy great music, and you've been really adding another dimension to it by bringing in some of the finest players around. And
Yes, it's been deemed as the place for jazz on Maui now. You have that wonderful little jazz room feel. And this is part of our bi-monthly jazz series. And the theme of that show is we try to bring in talent from outside of Maui and then group those guys with some of the local talent that we have here. And this Saturday is no exception. In fact, you introduced earlier, Gabriel Mark Hasselbach, Mark Gabriel Hasselbach is going to be our featured trumpeter. And you had mentioned earlier, before the show started, me and my story with meeting Gabe. In 1998, when I started the nonprofit Arts Education for Children group, George Benson was my neighbor. And I'd approached him and asked him if he would do a benefit concert to kick off me with the nonprofit. And he says to me, he goes, I would be happy to do this, but you can't go to my manager because, it'll never happen. So put me on your bill as the MC of the show. And I gave Joe Cano a guitar a few weeks ago. Have Joe bring that guitar and put together his band. I know if Joe puts the band together, it's going to be good enough to back me. And everything fell into place. Bob Longy gave us his venue. And on the night of that event, Gabe, along with Joe Cano, showed up with like an 11-piece band.
Oh, my gosh.
It was off the charts.
Wow.
And it was George Benson was there. And Gabe, you taped some of it, and it's on your website. I see a little bit of it. But absolutely, that was the kickoff for everything that I'm doing to this very day. It was like some of the first recognition we got. And it was just a stellar performance.
I can't even imagine how you fit in that many people. Was that upstairs at
yeah,
Longy's?
You remember that space upstairs?
Oh, yeah.
Gabe,
Oh, yeah.
You remember that room, yeah?
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, there was, that place would hold, because then after dinner it turned into just a music room.
Yeah.
And it was upstairs. Yeah, you could put probably 75 to 100 people in there or so on both sides.
Wow. And boy, I tell you, I have some good memories. That was where I started my first, this talk show started out there at Longy's 34 years ago. That was where I started this radio show. So it's full circle, right? I mean, I love Bob. Bob was just amazing, absolutely amazing. And it's interesting, too, because you can't help but wonder, Gabriel blowing your horn. Did your parents, did you have that as your, because you got to be a horn player if your name is Gabriel?
I think that's, I think it was preordained.
Yeah. There's such an amazing wealth of people who do learn how to play in school, play horns, but not a lot of them keep going. Did you learn in school? Was that one of your gifts in school to learn how to play?
Yeah, I actually had kind of an interesting start. I started on piano, and piano never really felt comfortable under my fingers. And then they gave me a tonette, a little recorder, plastic recorder, and that seemed pretty easy. I thought, I can do this. So I started playing trumpet in third grade, and we had this little, in the summer they combined all the elementary schools in the district, and we had a summer band, and that's where I first started out. And that summer we recorded a LP, like as a fundraiser, one of those, you go door to door and sell them and raise money for them band program. And so my very first year of playing, I was on this album, and my picture was on the front just by coincidence and everything, and I guess that's where the die was cast.
Wow, isn't that amazing? I mean, I thank Bryant, really, I think every time I talk to him, because he's dedicated to also inspiring some of the young people into doing more music and exploring music. At times, music in schools has been almost going extinct, and it's been so important to keep that door open and to keep kids playing. Look how it changed your life, Look how it changed your life. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? And I don't ever want to see that lost. Every child should have an opportunity to.
And you know what that is? It's exposure opportunities. And even with this weekend, we'll have seats there where students will actually be able to sit in that audience and observe and see somebody of Gabe's caliber play and perform. You never know when you're igniting a little spark or where that first I want to be like that comes from, But the earlier they are exposed to that sort of thing, and along with lessons to follow up on it, that's where the programming really takes hold. We have one of our young students. He's kind of our poster child, Jake Thomas. He's now Tadashi Thomas, but he just graduated from State University of New York playing first-year trumpet. They're a kid from Maui.
Wow.
And all of that background information and just training he got from here went on. And now he's playing professionally in New York. He'll be featured at a couple of different places with us in the next couple of weeks. But, yes, really appreciate you even knowing that education component is a key to what we do. Music with a purpose. Absolutely.
Yeah, and look at, with you, Gabe, I mean, my gosh, 11 certified contemporary jazz Billboard hits. And, of course, for those who are aware of it, the Juno Awards, the West Coast Music Award, you got, and 2011 Canadian Smooth Jazz Album of the Year and the International of the Year Instrumental album. Yeah. And so it's wonderful there.
I do straight ahead and contemporary. Most people would either do one or the other. And so my last straight ahead album, Mid-Century Modern Volume 3, stayed on the Jazz Week charts, that's the mainstream charts, for 17 weeks, got up to number 9, and ended up at number 51 for the year's top 100. So I sort of dug in pretty deep in both formats.
Well, and that's really important. And I really do think, I really think it's important that people realize you do have to be flexible. And at the same time, when you try to get locked into a certain genre whenever they ask you, it's good to say what you do. And you do easily say, okay, straight ahead and smooth jazz. And it leaves you the opportunity to do both.
And I spent a lot of time in New Orleans, too, so I've got a little bit of New Orleans stuff, jazz flowing through my veins as well.
Well, and isn't that interesting? Because we have been exposed to some great New Orleans jazz music here on Maui recently, and it's been, people love it. People absolutely love it here. So what are we going to expect to hear on this Saturday at 7:30?
Well, I talked to Bryant, just asked him what the temperature of the audience was. Sometimes it's just a smooth jazz audience, sometimes a straight ahead audience, and he says it's an erudite audience, an audience that wants to hear kind of what you can really do. So I'm going to start my show with straight ahead material, and just so that people know I can actually play, and then get into the funkier stuff, and so that people can go. He's really got a good groove going on there. So I'll cover the spectrum, and I might even throw in a little bit of New Orleans stuff for you.
And
I think people are going to be wanting to hear a little taste of all of it. And, truly, that's, I think, one of your talents. You mentioned to appreciate both styles, but the idea that you can go seamlessly between one and the other, that's the talent.
Yes.
Without question.
Yes, and it's the same thing that I love about jazz is the fact that the talent there also leads you to be able to not only be flexible on that, but to improvise and to go with the groove and to be able to not just go by charts, but by go with what the feeling is. And there's people who have trained all their lives, but if you ask them to improvise, they just can't do it, because it's just the reading that they've been doing, and it takes a lot of talent and confidence to be able to go with that. You'll be having some wonderful, as always, Bryant's got some great musicians behind you. Paul Marchetti, very well known on drums, of course. And tell us about Bryant, Jeff Helmer, and also Dave Graber.
Well, I'll tell you about Jeff.
Can I jump in here for a second? Let me jump in for a second. Here's, Paul's from Denver, my hometown, my original hometown. And I played with Paul at the Maui Jazz Festival a couple years back. And Dave Graber's from Canada here, and I played with him at that thing. I've never met Jeff Helmer, but I hear he's fantastic. So I've got a chance to have a little bit of a old home week too that way. And I played with Paul back in around 2000. Did a concert at the MAC for Jazz LA TV, and that was broadcast in 42 countries on BET.
Yeah.
And then a DVD came out from that, and and an album too. So I get to play with Paul for a lot of years now. It's been like 25 years.
Isn't that nice that comes around in that circle of talent comes around, because it kind of sets up an even deeper chance to just fly with the music. I find that when I listen to this kind of music, I just really get taken to a very good place that brings about really good vibes, and it feels great. And I don't think you've been there probably to Pro Arts, and it is Pro Arts this coming Saturday, January 6th at 7:30, and tickets are available if you call 808-463-6550 or proartsmaui.org. I just say that because sometimes people are driving in their car, and I want to make sure they hear that part of it. The
Tell them about Sunday, though, too.
Oh, what's Sunday?
Sunday is a regular Sunset Jazz that we do at the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, right.
So you'll have the same band there. They'll vary some of it, but there's pretty much a couple of different audiences. But it gives people on the West Side an opportunity to come out and listen to decent music without having to drive to Poly. So, that'll be Sunday at 5 till 7. And those tickets can be purchased at jazzmaui.org or mauichocolate.com.
Yeah, that's a great place. That's a wonderful, totally different than Pro Arts,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It'll be a nice, different vibe for both, but a great show.
Yeah, I mean, what a great experience to have both of those in a weekend. I think that with that, Bryant, you've got a really good coverage of different styles and different places with different audiences that we're going to enjoy. Plus, Gabriel, you can have some really good chocolate.
Yeah, sounds good to me. With macadamia nuts, I hope.
No, this is serious chocolate.
Oh,
my friend.
It's locally made.
Locally
made.
World
right
class. In any event, you get there a little early, I'll give you a tour. And she does nice little grab bags at the end for all the artists, so you'll have be able to do your own chocolate tasting.
So have you thought, because I don't know how COVID affected you in Vancouver. I would imagine you had probably less people around traveling, because a lot of people actually, I imagine it's a pretty big visitor site in Vancouver. Did you find that things came to a halt
during that time? Yeah, it was pretty quiet. For me, I've got a nice environment where I live. I've got two dogs and a great wife, and she's a good cook, and got Netflix, and they got a view and all that kind of stuff. And we take the dogs out and walk every day on the trails. So and I've got my own recording studio here in the building.
Nice.
So I made an album, made my last contemporary album, which is called Tongue and Groove. I made that during the COVID. Oh. And that was actually nominated for a Contemporary Album of the Year at the first annual Jazz Music Awards in Atlanta in beginning of about a year ago now. And so it got some recognition, but I put that to good use and never caught COVID this whole time, never got COVID.
Congratulations.
So I'm just counting my lucky stars.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hate to even raise my hands because you never know, but so far I have not caught COVID, but the majority of people I know at this point have. You do have to be careful because, I see a lot of people who take trips and can get it on a plane, so please be careful. On the plane ride and the plane ride down, because there's a lot of people still not wearing their masks and stuff. So it's really important, especially as a player like you are, to keep yourself healthy, and also to keep those lungs and everything in that throat healthy, because it's really a gift. And I have to say how lucky you are that you have a studio. I guess you built it yourself. A studio in your home is a wonderful gift.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I've been recording for years. Most of my albums are done largely in my studio with my parts anyway, and then some of the stuff I work with guys like Jeff Lorber and Lou Lang, and
I know Jeff,
and Bob Mincer and other artists like that, and we send tracks back and forth. So that makes it pretty easy. It's kind of nice to be in a virtual world sometimes.
Absolutely. And you know, these days, as you know, I often talk about is that you can't make money from CDs anymore. And so it is the playing pretty much that keeps you going, keeps you running. These days, that's what you kind of have to count on to get by, you know. And I do like playing. Like I say, I have a station I program in Sedona where I do your kind of music, and I do smooth jazz, and I do new age music, and all of that, which is still popular. And there are people that do listen, and it's pretty interesting. You can't make a lot of money off streaming, but you can certainly get the recognition where people hear you. And then when you come to play in that town, they maybe have already been listening to you or have heard you on some streaming site.
And speaking of digital recording, Gabe, you and Rock Hendricks have recorded together before.
That's right.
You, or not?
I'll be seeing Rock up there. He's Paul. In case you didn't know, Cindy, he's Paul Hardcastle's main sax player.
Right.
And Rock and I have a couple of hits together and recorded an album or two together. So.
Yeah, he's been very, very lucky with that because with that he's been able to get a lot of Billboard chart #1s and others because Paul Hardcastle, I found out, is pretty big in England and is kind of in that circle and groove where he is able to do a lot of work with #1 artists. I heard he was working on a Taylor Swift song and a George Michael remake and also a Dua Lipa. So once you're in that circle, you know, it's a whole different world, I guess.
Right.
So Brian, so are you going to be able, Brian, to keep these? I'm so glad you said you were going to be doing this up there in, you know, just that Maui. That Maui chocolate is so fun.
Sunset Jazz is a regular thing. That is good. 52 weeks per year. Every Sunday, 5 till 7, we do a quartet there, and it's really caught on. I mean, we basically sell out every show. You know, it's a limited audience of about 40 people, but Gunners now has this liquor license. It's a really, really pleasant experience. Great music, great atmosphere. We have that pavilion, open air. And as Gabe had mentioned, you know, the people who are showing up for these shows, they're our demographic. It is a true listening audience. The time's short, it's precise, great music's being presented, and just a great experience. Taste world-class chocolate. The cocktails are of the highest caliber as well. So really, really pleasant experience.
I think that is fantastic. I really am. And you're going to be doing these gigs at Pro Arts once a month still?
No, they're every other month.
Oh, every other month. Okay,
yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So, and then you can tie the people in with the gigs up there at Maui.
Yeah, so this has actually worked out pretty well. So if they do a show at Pro Arts, which caters to that central Maui /up country audience, and then this next day it's basically a West Maui audience because we get a lot of tourists at that show.
Yeah.
Those people staying at those hotels up north. You know, there's nothing to venture into Lahaina to do, or that, you know, you get as far as the cannery, and you're headed out of town. So it's now providing an opportunity for more than a one-man band. I mean, those shows are minimum always as a quartet. So it's, and of course with really high caliber musicians as well.
Well, I've got another guest calling in, Gabe, so I thank you so much for taking the time to call in, and we look forward to seeing you this Saturday at Pro Arts at 7:30. Go to Pro Arts.
Will you be there? You'll be there in person?
I am going to try to get down there, absolutely.
Okay, good.
And hang on, Brian, I want you to meet the next person I'm going to have on the phone.
All right.
Okay. You
know,
all right,
I think Dave, look forward to seeing you Saturday, buddy.
And also, Brian, I think I've told you before about this wonderful guy that has done a lot of band pieces. His name's Stephen Melillo, and he's created some amazing band works. And he's going to be calling in here in just a couple of seconds from the East Coast. He was just nominated for his 3rd Pulitzer Prize Award, and he's doing some amazing work that's going to be going even to taking a band piece to Liechtenstein. And doing one of his pieces there in about a month.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, no, I think I've told you about it. He's done some wonderful band work, and so I think, Stephen, hi, how are you?
Aloha. Mahalo.
Hey, Stephen, I wanted you to meet on the line before he leaves. Another friend of mine here, Bryant Neal, has been providing a lot of work for kids, and he's got actually a horn player coming in this week, but he actually brings jazz and music into the schools, and his name's Bryant Neal. He's on the other line, so I just wanted to introduce the two to you, because I've told him about you and the work you've done.
Aloha, Stephen.
Hey, how are you?
I am excellent, and wonderful to hear as fellow patron of the arts and still out there making it happen. Good for you.
Hey, my two kids just left for Virginia Beach, where they're playing jazz. One's on a flugelhorn, one's on a trumpet, and they're sitting in with the band down there, and they just improvise all night. So it's right up your alley.
Playing for the sake of playing, having fun. I'm going to take off, but Cindy, what you're doing is right up my alley. This is the reason why you put us together. We do camps here on an annual basis, and I think that there's some kind of a collaboration that definitely could line up here for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, hey, have a good one, Brian. Thanks for calling in. I'm going to talk to Stephen
next. Thank you, Cindy.
Aloha.
All right, you guys. Aloha.
And
see you.
Let me give a little introduction to my friend Stephen. And it's been a pleasure. I've had a chance to meet him and work with him and collaborate on a couple of projects. He was the winner of multiple Golden Globe Music Awards in 22. I was a part of that, 2022 and 23, the Hollywood Music Media Award for Best Epic Orchestral and Best New Age Album Award, New Age Awards. And, oh, my gosh, you've gotten so much recognition for your 1,330 works, unless you've written something else today, which I would not be surprised by.
It's actually 54.
Is it up to 54? You gotta update your bio, my friend. So many concerts pieces, so many symphonies, so much inspiration, and I am very excited you're going to be going to Liechtenstein's. Am I pronouncing that? Is it Liechtenstein or Liechtenstein? Liechtenstein?
I'm going to Luxembourg.
Oh, you're going to Luxembourg. Oh, my gosh, that's different.
Right.
And that's coming up in February, I believe.
Yep, February 20th to March 3rd.
Which is amazing. There's so much you've been doing. My head spins when I think about it. But I wanted to talk to you and grab you from what you're doing to take a break and talk about the great honor of you getting the third Pulitzer Prize nomination.
No, a nomination.
Third, I said nomination, I think, but I just said it backwards, like a person who's dyslexic would. But anyway, this is the third one. You were also nominated for the Pulitzer Prize for Symphony III, Lightfall, and also before you had one for that amazing work you did, Kakehashi, That We Might Live. And this latest work is super important that a lot of people didn't even know about this until you started promoting it and doing this piece. And it has a deep impact on what's going on right now because it has to do with Ukraine. And there is a center near you that is the Ukrainian Orthodox Christian church outside. It's one of the centers there near you. And it's also has got a memorial to His Holiness Patriarch, and I can't pronounce, Mstislav I, the first patriarch of the Reborn Church in Ukraine. So this is a deep, deep subject that was powerful work. So I just may say congratulations on that nomination.
Thank you.
Explain what happened and what inspired you to do. Is it Holodomor?
Yeah, it's called Holodomor. It is the genocide that happened under Stalin in 1933, and between 7 and 10 million Ukrainians were starved to death because Stalin, cut off Ukraine. So this whole thing with the Russians now going into Ukraine again, it's sort of like a mirror of things that have happened to the Ukrainian people before. So let me just backtrack, though, because the whole story is actually really interesting. And it's really sort of too bad that the Pulitzer people didn't know the full story, because hours before there was news of the Russians invading Ukraine, I was writing a piece, and it was about the sadness of war. And what happened was I had read this poem by, interestingly enough, Taras Shevchenko, and who's Ukrainian, and I had read another poem, and I put the two poems together in my mind and to create this anti-war piece, okay? And it was called A Requiem of Two Poems. Maybe an hour, I'm serious, it had to be an hour, maybe 2 hours tops. After I had completed that piece, the news came that the Russians invaded Ukraine. I couldn't believe it. So, I sent this recording to Catherine Geach, who's the violinist that you know as well. She's in Rome. And I said, Catherine, maybe you can play this. Well, actually, I just sent her my recording of it, and then she offered to play it. And she did, and she sent it back, and I put it together. We sent it out literally hours after the invasion, and it was spread all over the place. It went to the church in Lviv, this recording, and it went to the St. Andrew's Church, which is in New Jersey. That's the hub of the Ukrainian churches in the United States. And before anybody knew it, within days, you had Ukrainian soldiers actually listening to that piece and praying before going into battle as they listened to the piece. Well, then, one thing led to another. That piece led to learning more about the Holodomor historically, and then creating another piece. And this had to do with a mother's lament about losing her children to war, a Ukrainian, specifically Ukrainian mothers. Then, after learning about the Holodomor, I wrote that piece. So it's actually the third piece in this trilogy of pieces that are inspired by the suffering of war. So the Holodomor is a very dark and brooding piece because think about the subject matter. It's about genocide and, in fact, overlooked genocide.
Yes.
Because the world doesn't recognize what happened in the 1930s that way. So there's an entity called Forza Ucraina, right, which is an Italian-based entity that seeks to have the world recognize the Holodomor as a genocide. So, again, Catherine and I, we went out and we did all this research, just like on That We Might Live, on a smaller scale, though. And we found all of these actual photographs from the 1930s, from the Holodomor, and we put them in a video, and we put the music of the Holodomor to it. And she actually played it live in the church in Santa Sofia, the Ukrainian church that's in Rome. So now that's the piece that was nominated. It was nominated for the prize.
And I just a side note on this. It's such a powerful, impactful piece. Strangely enough, when YouTube was going to put it up, they they made a note that it's got images that may not be suitable for people to watch because it's pictures of the war, and it's kind of flagged, right, when you see it, which of course can mean that not as many people will watch it, which is kind of heartbreaking because truthfully, a lot of people don't want to know the sad things that happen in life. A lot of people don't want to see the horrors of war, and there's a lot of it, and it is so sad that we're so overwhelmed still with having to deal with war and now more war that people just can't they can't digest it all. So it gets to the point where you go, wow, what do you do, And then at the same time, we see if we're not aware of what happened. What was it? If we don't remember our history, we're bound to repeat it. What's that quote? You probably know it.
Well, yeah, those who don't remember history are, destined to repeat it. I actually have a very deeper thinking about that. I don't believe that history repeats itself. I believe that time itself repeats. Mm-hmm. I believe that we are in a kind of a cosmic loop that has been going on since the Big Bang. Mm-hmm. That there's a confrontation between good and evil that happens in every single generation. And the only reason I live that theory is because of all the people that I've known. I intimately knew the POWs from World War II. Mm-hmm. and other people from World War II. I intimately know people who fought in Korea, the Battle of Chosin. I know people who fought in Vietnam. I know people who fought in Desert Storm, and it goes on and on. And in fact, in my novel, William H. Carney, who is an actual real-to-life person, who was the first recipient of the Medal of Honor, of the first black recipient of the Medal of Honor. He was in the 54th Regiment in the Civil War. He, that character, I have him tell the other lead character, whose name is Isaac, I've noticed that every 50 years or so, there's another war. Mm-hmm. And it goes on and on and on. And if your listeners do the math and start now and go back in time mm-hmm. to the American Revolution, just thinking about USA, not even thinking about anything else, and you start now and go back, you'll see how eerie it is that all of these numbers, they keep lining up in a cycle of perpetual, here we go again, when are we going to learn?
Mm-hmm. No, you are very true, and as long as you introduce that, I probably should mention, I know how massive amount of work you put into that amazing series, Ahab, and it turned into, there was the 2 books that you completely redid, and there's the audio book, and you also republished all of that, as well as a book you did when you were, I think, 17 or 18 years old. And mm-hmm. It was amazing amount of work, and I've done audiobooks, and I kind of know how the basic formats go with that, but this one is over the top because you actually had music that you'd written and wrote new music that is symphonic music to go with this mm-hmm. audiobook. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about that the works that are now available in all formats.
Yeah, I have to start by telling you that I'm holding in my hand the, what's it called? The Beekeeper's Immune Support Spray that you had sent me. And, I want the listeners to understand that, once I started doing this, I have these 2 novels. One is the prequel to Herman Melville's Moby Dick. It is about Ahab as a boy. Who was he? Did he love people? Who was he? What turned him into Captain Ahab? There's that part of the story. And these are love stories, by the way. And then there's the sequel to Moby Dick called Death to Moby Dick, a love story. Again, these are love stories, but they happen in unbelievably tragic events all around real history. A lot of it is war, because war is a part of history, sadly. And, So I started to do this thing, and, here I am in my room above the garage. I have to turn the air conditioning off. This is when I started. It was hot. I had to turn the air conditioning off, make the recordings. And then when it got cold, I had to turn the heat off and make the recordings. And anybody who's in, the arts in any way and listening to this, you'll appreciate this. Yeah. It took me 196 days, and I'm talking about 15 to 21-hour days.
Wow. That's
how long it took. So when I read all of these stories in there, then of course the composer in me got triggered.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait a minute. This really needs underscore. And so I wound up writing 3.5 hours of music, 3 hours and 12 minutes of music that accompany all of this storytelling. So that's on the Audible at Amazon.com. And then I made my own excerpts album because it was so interesting, the music that was born of this, that came out of these emotions as these people. I mean, there's scenes in there that are so cool. I mean, a mother, a real, a person dedicating her life to her son to the degree where she even lets herself die in a horrid way to save her son's life. And it's all of these stories about love and women, really. I had somebody point that out to me because 3 of the people that did reviews on the book were all women, and they were like, the way that you pay homage to women is fantastic. And I said, it wasn't intentional. I didn't set out to write, oh, here's a tribute to women. I didn't do that, but I'm inspired by my mother, my own mother, a lady by the name of Dame Mary Sigillo Baracco, who was a POW of the Nazis during World War II. I'm inspired by all these women. They're real stories, and they became these incredible love stories. And like I say, they're timeless, classic kind of love stories, but they happen inside of such tragedy. They happen inside of the confrontation of humanity with evil.
Yes.
I mean, you can't get a more direct enemy than that.
Well, if people are listening in cars, so I want them to be able to get to your website in case they're sitting there going, how do I find out about this? Of course, it's streaming on all sites under Stephen, Stephen Melillo. You can find him on all streaming sites, including the audiobook streaming sites, and so you'll find that there. But what's the best website as well?
My website is Stormworld, STORMWORLD, stormworld.com. There's a separate page that I created called MELS, MELS, like me, Melillo, and Melville, right? So you go to stormworld.com/MELS, and there I have this thing called the 4 Books of Mel, which is the books that I wrote about me when I was 17. I wrote it when I was 19 years old. That book is called Only for Now. Then there's a children's book called No Garden Dragon, which is sort of like Peter and the Wolf. It's a completely narrated story set to music. And then there's the Ahab and Death to Moby Dick stories, which to me, oh my gosh, I would give anything for people to understand that it isn't about marketing. It isn't about that. I just wish that people would read these books because they are profound stories about love and the triumph of love and the triumph of good over everything.
Well, and the truth is that when you get into a project, I mean, I think all people who are really, geniuses really get into a different time zone when they start doing a huge project. And it's almost like time disappears. But when you go, like 20 hours, my gosh, that's a little, that's still a little much even for obsessions. But you put in that kind of energy into it. And it was pretty amazing that all of that could get done. And for people who aren't aware of your work, you are really a perfectionist as far as detail to history. You are a history aficionado. And so if you're reading these books, you will be transported back to that time and really get a true idea of what was really going on at that time.
Yes, and I think that people will actually learn things that they didn't really know about that were going on at that time. And, I have a friend who, after he read the book and listened to the audio, he said to me, this is the weirdest experience that I've ever had, because first of all, you have to come up with a new name. This is not an audio book. I don't know what it is, he said, but it's not an audio book. It's something else, And, I said, well, to me, it's like a 1940s radio show. I mean, you have the guy, telling the story as me, and I'm doing all the characters, by the way. I wound up doing 33 different characters to do this because and by the way, 33, as you think I'm just pulling that number out.
Yeah.
There were actually 33 sailors on the Seneca, which was an actual ship that went to the Wainwright Inlet in the 1800s and took out Moby Dick. When you read this story, you're going to be like, wait a minute, is this fiction? But 95% of it isn't fiction. This is stuff that really, really happened. I mean, right down to the manifests of what's on the ships, the astrological signs in the skies, the appearance of comets and shooting stars and when they happened, all superimposed over the story of, first of all, profound evil taking its toll on truly innocent, good people. That's number one. And then the triumph of good people over the forces of evil.
Well, you really had to battle the whale in doing this because you get so into it. You actually, when you're playing the role, I have to say I would add on to what you people think. I think of it as actually a soundtrack to a movie because you have a very cinematic approach to a lot of your music and have done different soundtracks to movies. So when I listen to it, I think of it as listening to a movie soundtrack.
Cool.
But
very cool.
But the Moby Dick is a very deep and strange and curious subject, that is representing what to you?
You see, for me, and I don't use the name Moby Dick too often. I refer to it as the white whale.
Yeah.
In the novel a lot, and for me, the white whale is a manifestation of evil. You have to read the novel to know what I'm talking about, but it's like, it's actually explained in the book. It's like it's a gift. They're having this discussion, and they're saying, "Do you realize what God, or the universe, or the force, or whatever you want to refer to it as? Do you realize what they have done for us?" And Carney is like, "What? What are you talking about? A gift?" And Isaac is like, they have congealed evil into a target. We can take this target out and create peace. And it's really cool. I mean, The book is like, okay, racism? No, it's anti-racism. Mm-hmm. It's anti-war. It's anti-everything. Our main character, Isaac, he fought in the Civil War. That's how he meets Carney. And it's real. It's all real. I mean, I can't even really get the words out because it just breaks my heart. In the book, I actually put real pages from a book that lists all of the soldiers from Massachusetts who died at, my mind's Andersonville, that died in the prison camp at Andersonville. And, of course, all of this is connected to all the other POW stories. So the POW stories go back to Abi's father. Abi is Ahab, by the way. They go back to Abi's father. He was a prisoner of war. Abi, or Ahab, was a prisoner of war. The son of Ahab is a prisoner of war. And all the prisoner of war stories are real.
Wow.
These are things that I heard from people who were in the water after the USS Indianapolis was shot down, shot from underneath them. These are stories I heard from people who were prisoners of the Nazis. These are stories I heard from people who were prisoners of the Japanese. So when you hear these words, you're hearing real stories conveyed to you indirectly from these incredible people who sacrificed so much. And, there's a line, you mentioned Kakehashi, that we might live. And there's a line that I have in the chorus that says, "We beat the hell that heaven sent us to beat."
Well, for people who aren't aware of this was you went into deep work doing the Death March, the Bataan Death March, and you actually interviewed some of the survivors. You did an amazing piece of music and detailed and did a video that did it, and you were able to show it to those people in a live concert a couple of times, right?
Yes, it was a gift to them. So I made this thing, and it was all a race against time, right? Because these guys are leaving us; they're passing away, and it wasn't interviews, Cindy. It was me becoming their grandson, and it was going and cutting their lawns, and it was me making pumpkin pies for them and delivering them, and it's that kind of thing. And I adopted them, and they adopted me, and we were really, really close. And I'm talking to you from a room right now where everywhere I look in this room, there's either a picture of them or there's some artifact from them, and all of this it's like being in the middle of the museum. And God called on me and said, "You need to do this to honor those men." And I was like, "Well, why me? I'm nobody. Why don't you, tap on John Williams' shoulder or somebody like that? Somebody who's got connections and stuff like that." And you know what? The guys said that you'll appreciate this. I said to the guys, I said, I really wish that I was somebody famous for you guys. I wish I was, because that way, your story would get out there and this and that. And I said, I just don't get it. I don't know why God picked me. And you know what they said? They said, that's because you're one of us.
Well, you do have in your family, going back, there is a lot of connection to that I'm sure in your DNA is that responsibility, since you come from people who have also gone through terrors of war and been victims of war. And I think that is something brought through to you. But you take it to the next step because you're able to not only hear the story, but you're able to bring it to life with music. And the power of music in this is so strong. And you were able to get videos that a lot of people had never seen released before to put in the video that you did, which I believe is on YouTube, isn't it?
Well, the whole thing isn't on. Well, the thing that we just did at the Navy base in April, that's on. The whole concert is on YouTube, but the rest of it isn't. In fact, I'm having a friend come here after I come back from Luxembourg, and we're going to resurrect the DVD that I made. It's still not finished because I want to resurrect it and get the quality up, and I want to use AI to, get the images from the past and get them up into much higher quality, so that this DVD becomes a real lasting monument to who these guys are. When I did the premiere of this, it was in Kentucky, and it was at the American Defenders of Botanic Corregidor gathering. And I just got in front of the guys and said, look, I know there's all these books, and I know there's all these stories and documentaries, and I go, I'm just, I'm really nobody. But I want this to be the sword Excalibur that you pass down, and you say to your children and your children's children, this is what I lived through. Mm-hmm. This is what I suffered through. And I played the piece. It was projected. It was on DVD by that time. And it's about an hour and 30 minutes. And these guys, at the end of that thing, Cindy, oh my God, they stood from their wheelchairs. They stood from their wheelchairs with tears in their eyes to give it a standing ovation. The next thing I knew, a guy was coming up to me. He was actually the son of a Death March survivor. And he said, can I have 17 copies of that DVD? And I was like, I was giving them away. I gave like 350 of these things away to the guys and to their family members. And this guy came up to me, I need 17 copies. And I said, what do you need 17 copies for? He took the 17 copies and he sent them to the Congress. He sent them to 17 different congressmen and congresswomen. Well, that resulted in those guys getting Bronze Stars and Purple Hearts 60 years after the fact.
Wow.
So, I can look at that and go, yeah, I'm glad God picked me to do that, because look what that music did. It wasn't about awards for itself. Mm-hmm. It was about recognition for the people that deserved it. Mm-hmm. Because I always said, oh yeah, this is cool. Oh, Steve, you wrote this. Okay, big deal. Because what I'm writing is in ink. But what they did, they wrote in blood. And I always tell people, do you understand the significance of that? Sorry.
No, I understand. And at the same time, with all of these works you've done about war, my hardest part to stomach and digest is that every time you go through that, knowing that there's another war you see about, you hear about, another opportunity for people to kind of go, hey, there's got to be another way. But as you say, it's part of this strange process we go through in the world. And of course, we're still, in spite of all that, we still pray for peace. I do every day, as I'm sure you do. We only have 3 minutes left, but I did want to let people know You are going to do this amazing concert, and it's going to be very interesting. That one was also a beautiful piece. This is a band piece, and how did this next journey come up?
Are you talking about Chapter 89 in Luxembourg?
Yes, the Luxembourg one.
Okay, so Chapter 89 is the next Stormworks CD, and that's going to be about 90 minutes of new concert music. And what we're going to do, this will be a unique trip. I haven't done this yet. We're actually going to do a live concert of all premieres of this 90 minutes of music.
Wow.
And then the week following the concerts, I'll conduct, by the way, and then the concerts that, the week that follows, we're going to actually record the 90 minutes of music, and that's going to become Stormworks Chapter 89, Worlds Within the World. That's the name of it.
How many people in the orchestra?
I'm going to say about 60.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And these are world-class musicians you're going to be able to work with, which is quite...
they're top of it. Right now, they're considered one of the best bands in Europe, and therefore the world.
Yeah. Oh, it's a busy year. Of course, your whole life is rather busy. I'm always amazed that you have time. I was honored to work with you last year, and we did Sacred Rainbows, and, that was beautiful because you added your music and allowed me to use some of your music with some of my words. And, of course, you worked before in Love Conquers All, which I was so glad got some recognition. And also, we worked doing the arrangements for In the Hands of God, and that was a tribute to my sister, which you did beautiful job arranging. Your work is all streaming, and people can find you on any streaming site. I think they'll find it really inspiring. I never cease to get inspired when I hear the Grade 2 and 3, which is an amazing piece of work in itself. So I encourage people to check it out, and do check out on Amazon all of the Ahab and the other works you have up there, and the audiobook, which is well worth getting. It's not just an audiobook, as you said. It's really, I think it's like listening to a movie. It's so real and so powerful with the music and the story and the history. You put your heart and soul into these pieces, and I really hope people can get them. Again, your website is stormworld.com?
Stormworld, yes, stormworld.com. But Cindy, the honor's all mine. When you come to me and ask me to work with you, it's the other way around. You always inspire me.
Well, I owe you a lot because really that music is something I always turn to, and I know that's what people want from music, something to lift their spirits when they need. So I'm wishing you a very happy and a very, very blessed New Year, my friend, and congratulations on your Pulitzer Prize nomination. I really hope you do get it because you deserve it. So God bless you. Aloha.
Aloha.